$6 a pound. That is what you are effectively paying for popcorn when you buy the microwave boxes. And a plain bag of the exact same kernel sells for about $1.50 a pound, sitting on the shelf 3 feet away. Today I'm going to show you how to make better popcorn than any microwave bag using nothing but raw kernels, a pot or a plain paper bag, in about 90 seconds of your time. And I'll give you 3 flavor recipes at the end that turn this into something you'll actually crave. That box of 6 pre-portioned bags costs $4 to $5. A 1-pound bag of loose kernels costs less than $2, and it makes roughly the same number of servings as 3 or 4 of those boxes. Before you dismiss this as a tiny saving, I want you to look at what is actually lining those bags, because the money is only half the story. I switched to loose kernels 2 years ago and genuinely cannot taste a store bag anymore without noticing the chemical edge. Let me show you why. Start with the bag itself. Microwave popcorn bags are not plain paper. They are engineered to survive high heat and to stop grease from soaking through onto your microwave floor. To do that, many of them have historically been coated with a class of grease-proofing chemicals called PFAS, sometimes called forever chemicals, because they do not meaningfully break down in your body or the environment. The reason they are useful is exactly the reason they are a problem. A PFAS coating repels oil and water so effectively that engineers love it. But when you heat that bag in a microwave, studies have found those compounds can migrate into the oil and onto the popcorn itself. You're not just eating corn, you are eating a small dose of whatever was painted on the inside of that bag to keep it from leaking. Now, a lot of major brands have publicly moved away from certain PFAS compounds over the last decade, and that is genuinely good news. But here is the honest problem. The labels almost never tell you what the liner is made of. You cannot stand in the grocery aisle and verify it. When the fix costs $1.50 and removes the question entirely, why gamble on a coating you can't even read? Then there's the flavoring, which is a stranger story than the bag. For years, the buttery smell that hits you when you open a fresh bag came largely from a compound called diacetyl. It is the molecule that makes butter smell like butter. On its own, it is not exotic. It occurs naturally in real butter and in beer. The trouble showed up in the factories that made the stuff. Workers breathing in concentrated diacetyl vapor developed a serious, irreversible lung condition that damaged the tiny airways in their lungs. It became so associated with the industry that it picked up a nickname you may have heard, popcorn lung. After that came to light, most large manufacturers reformulated to remove diacetyl. Here's the part that should make you tilt your head. Several of the replacement chemicals they switched to, including one called 2,3-pentanedione, are structurally close cousins of diacetyl, and early research suggests they may carry similar risks, so the industry didn't necessarily solve the problem. In some cases, it swapped one buttery-smelling compound for another that hadn't been studied as long. That is not a conspiracy. It is just how reformulation works when the goal is to keep the smell and change the name. I want to be fair here, because Sydney doesn't do fear-mongering. Eating one bag is not going to hurt you. The factory lung cases involve people inhaling industrial concentrations all day, every day, for years. The point is not that microwave popcorn is poison. The point is that you are paying a premium price for a product wrapped in a coating you can't identify and flavored with compounds designed in a lab to imitate a stick of butter that costs almost nothing. When the real thing is cheaper and tastes better, the whole arrangement starts to look a little absurd. So let's make the good version. The simplest method needs no special equipment at all. Take a plain brown paper lunch bag, pour in a 1/4 cup of kernels, fold the top over 2 or 3 times so it stays shut, set it folded, side down, and microwave it for 2 to 3 minutes, listening for the pops to slow to about 2 seconds apart. Now that's it. No coating, no mystery liner, just a paper bag doing the exact job the expensive bag does, minus the chemistry set. If you are still watching, you're clearly the type who reads the ingredient list instead of the front of the box, and that is exactly who this channel is for. A free subscription genuinely helps these videos reach more people. And if you want early access and members-only deep dives, there's a membership link in the description. Now let me show you the stovetop method, because this is where popcorn stops being a snack and starts being something you show off. For the stovetop, use a heavy pot with a lid. Put it on medium heat. Add about 2 tablespoons of oil with a high smoke point. Coconut, avocado, or refined canola all work. And drop in 3 or 4 test kernels. Cover it. When those test kernels pop, the oil is at temperature and you add 1/3 of a cup of kernels in a single layer. Put the lid on, but leave it cracked just slightly so steam can escape, because trapped steam is the difference between crisp popcorn and chewy popcorn. Then you shake. Keep the pot moving across the burner so the kernels don't sit and scorch. When the popping slows to a couple of seconds between pops, pull it off the heat immediately. The most common mistake people make is waiting for the very last kernel, and by the time that one goes, the first batch is already burning. A few unpopped kernels at the bottom is the sign of a job done right, not a failure. The reason this tastes so much better than the bag comes down to one thing you now control completely: fat and salt timing. In a microwave bag, the oil and flavoring are baked in from the factory and distributed unevenly. When you do it yourself, you salt while the popcorn is still hot and lightly coated in oil, so the salt actually sticks instead of falling to the bottom of the bowl. That single detail is why homemade popcorn seems seasoned all the way through, and store popcorn always tastes strong on the first handful and bland by the last. Now for the 3 recipes I promised, because plain popcorn is just the starting line. The first is real butter and fine salt, done properly. Melt real butter slowly and let it separate. Spoon off the clear golden layer on top and leave the milky white liquid at the bottom of the pan behind. That white part is water and milk solids, and it is what makes drizzled butter turn popcorn soggy. The clear golden layer is clarified butter, and it coats every piece without making it wet. Drizzle it in stages, tossing between each pour. You get the full buttery flavor the bag is imitating from the actual thing it's imitating for pennies. The second is what I call cheesy chip popcorn. While the popcorn is hot, dust it with grated Parmesan and a little garlic powder, tossing as you go so the cheese melts against the warm surface and clings. A pinch of smoked paprika on top and gives it a savory, almost barbecue chip character. It scratches the same itch as a bag of cheese puffs without the neon dust that permanently stains your fingers and somehow your keyboard. The third is a sweet and salty kettle style. In a small pan, melt 2 tablespoons of butter with 2 tablespoons of sugar and a pinch of salt until the sugar just dissolves and turns glossy. Pour that over the hot popcorn and toss fast, because it sets quickly. You get that carnival kettle corn crunch, the sweet shell with the salty backbone, and you made it in about 4 minutes instead of paying $7 for a tin of it at a fair. Once you have these 3 down, you can go anywhere. Cinnamon and a whisper of sugar for a dessert version. Nutritional yeast, if you want the cheesy flavor without the cheese. Chili and lime for something with a little bite. The base is always the same cheap kernels, only the topping changes, and every one of them costs a fraction of a single microwave box. The kernels last for years in a sealed jar. The paper bag costs almost nothing. The pot you already owned, and you never again have to wonder what was painted on the inside of the bag to keep your snack from leaking. Thanks for watching. If this made you look at your pantry a little differently, share it with the popcorn addict in your life, and I'll see you in the next one.